Welcome, Integrated Math 2 students. This is your first part of 3 for our final exam and course closure. Today's focus is on absolute value and quadratic functions. If you want to go back to your notes and kind of review before you take part of this process, there's going to be 30 questions. So if you want to review first before starting, by all means you can do so. It's going to be the first 16 days of the online course. So if you go back in Google Classroom, that's week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, days 1 through 16. That's what we are focused on now. If you have your notes out, it's module 3, topic 1 and topic 2. All right, that's what the focus is for today. Again, open notes, but I'd like you to complete your own work. This isn't phone or text a friend, ask a sibling for help on how to do it. This is what do you know at this point in time. So remember our Viking expectations: respect, responsibility, integrity, and engagement. If you have any problems that you need to kind of work out, you can use scratch paper to do that. And this I expect to be a celebration of what you have learned this quarter. And it should be low stress. Again, open notes. You can refer back to things. And I'll probably be giving you some tips along the way. We're going to go over the questions here. So I'll be probably giving you a little detail if needed for the question. All right, so if you're ready to go, let's do it. Question 1. Which function family does this graph represent? A, linear, B, absolute value, C, quadratic, D, exponential, E, cubic. Question 2. What is the axis of symmetry for this graph? A, y equals 0, B, x equals 0, C, y equals -2, D, y equals 1, E, x equals 3. What is the vertex for this graph? A, -2, -4, B is 0, -2, C is 2, 0, D is 3, 1, and E is the point 5, -1. All right, now I want you to write the equation for the function represented in this graph using vertex form. So that's y equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. Question 5. Given the original parent function was y equals absolute value of x, I want you to explain what transformations took place that resulted in this graph. Use your academic vocabulary. Explain what transformations occurred going from y equals absolute value of x to this function here. Question 6. What is the range for the function represented by this graph? Write using inequality. Please be careful here. I'm asking you for the range, not the domain, the range. So A, y equals all real numbers. B, y is less than or equal to 1. C, y is greater than or equal to 1. D, y is less than or equal to -2. E, y is greater than or equal to -2. Question 7. What is the interval of decrease for this graph? Right answer using interval notation, and then INF means infinity. And so remember, when you have a parentheses on the left, that means it gets so close to that number, but it doesn't include it. If it's a bracket on the left, it means that number, it includes it as well. Same thing on the right side. If it's a parenthesis on the right, it doesn't include that number. If it's a bracket, it does include it. In this case, they're all parentheses, so the number's not included as part of the interval of decrease. A is going to be negative infinity to positive infinity, also known as all real numbers in that example. B would be negative infinity to 1. C is negative infinity to 3. D is from 1 to positive infinity. And E is from 3 to positive infinity. Question 8. Dominic graphs the equation y equals a times the absolute value of x, where a is a positive integer. If Gina multiplies a by -3, the new graph will become A, narrower and open downward, B, narrower and open upward, C, wider and open downward, and D, wider and open upward. So for, again, narrower, another word we've used in this class, is it has a vertical stretch. Wider, the words we use in this class has been, it's got a vertical compression. Question 9, the graph shows which equation? So I'll let you read those and answer. Question 10, which function is represented by the graph? I'll let you read those and answer. Question 11, given the function y equals -2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 4 is a transformation of the parent graph y equals absolute value of x. Explain what transformations occurred. Again, I want you to use your academic vocabulary as you talk about the transformations and give me the units of measurement for those transformations. Question 12, given the function y equals -2 absolute value x plus 3 plus 4, what is the vertex? A, -2, 3, B, -2, 4, C, 3, 4, D, -3, 4, and E is 3, -4. Question 13, given the function y equals -2 absolute value x plus 3 plus 4, explain how you would graph this function by hand. That means without a graphing calculator, no Desmos. Be very detailed as if you were explaining this to someone learning it for the very first time. All right, given the function y equals -2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 and then plus 4, what is the range for the function? Again, I'm asking for the range, not the domain. What is the range of this function? All right, question 15. Write the equation for an absolute value function using vertex form. So y equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. That has a vertex in quadrant 1. So if you forgot that, I put the quadrants up here. Quadrant 1 is the upper right quadrant of a coordinate plane. And then please be creative with your vertical compression value. Vertex is in quadrant 1. It opens down and has a vertical compression. So I want you to be creative with that vertical compression value that you give me. In other words, I don't want 1, 2, 3 or 1/2, 1/3, 1/4. Be creative with that value. And do not pick a vertex that has the same numbers for the x and y coordinates. So if you look in quadrant 1, I don't want you to give me 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. Be a little bit more creative with your pick there. Okay? Look forward to seeing your answer on this equation. Question 16. Which function family does this graph represent? A, linear, B, absolute value, C, quadratic, D, exponential, E, cubic. What is the axis of symmetry for this graph? A, x equals -2, B, x equals 0, C, x equals 2, D, x equals 4, E, x equals 6, F, x equals -2, and x equals 6. Question 18, what is the vertex for this graph? A, -2, 0, B, 0, -12, C, 2, -16, D, 6, 0, E, -2, 6. What is the vertex? Question 19, write the equation for this function in vertex form. So y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So write the equation for that parabola in the graph. I want the vertex form. Question 20, what are the zeros for this graph? And I'll tell you, the zeros, another name for the zeros were the x-intercepts, if that helps you. A, it says -2, 0, and 0, -12. B is 0, -12, and 2, -16. C is -2, 0, and 6, 0. D is 2, 0, and -6, 0. E is -2, 0, and -12, 0. Question 21, write the equation for this function in factored form. So that's y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. And I just had the previous question. You had to find the zeros. That should help you with this form as a hint. Question 22, write the equation for this function in standard form. Again, standard form is y equals a times x squared plus bx plus c. And I'll give you a little hint on this one as well. There's more than one way of doing this, but an easier way would be to use one of the equations you just wrote in either vertex form or factored form and expand those and put them into standard form. Question 23, what is the interval of increase for this graph? Right answer using interval notation. Again, INF means infinity. And again, remember the bracket means it includes that number. Parenthesis next to the number means it's not included. It gets so close, but yet so far from that number. So for A, bracket -16, comma, infinity, parenthesis. B, parenthesis, negative infinity, comma, -16 with the bracket. C, parenthesis, negative infinity to 2 with the parenthesis. D, parenthesis 2 to infinity, parenthesis. And E is bracket, -2 to 6 bracket. Which one is the interval of increase? Question 24, which of the following represents a quadratic function opening downwards? Okay, so it has to be a quadratic function and it has to open down. 25, what is the axis of symmetry for a quadratic function? Y equals -2x squared minus 8x minus 5. I'll save you some time with the notes. Remember the formula we use for this in standard form is to find the axis of symmetry is x equals opposite of b over 2a. Question 26, what is the equation of the axis of symmetry for the function y equals -4 times x minus 2 squared plus 3? Is it A, x equals -2, B, x equals 2, C, x equals 8, D, x equals -8? Question 27, determine the equation of the axis of symmetry for the parabola that passes through the points -6, 0 and 4, 0. Is it A, x equals 2, B, x equals -2, C, x equals 1, or D, x equals -1? Question 28, which function is represented by this graph? I'll let you read A through D, but let me make sure you can see the key points here. So the vertex is at -1, -4. One of the zeros is at -5, 0. And the other 0 is at, blew that. One of the zeros is at -3, 0. And the other 0 is at 1, 0. See, it's so small I couldn't read it myself. Question 29. Which is the graph of y equals x minus 2 squared plus 4? I'll let you just look at those graphs. You should be able to tell. Even if you can't read it that closely, you should still be able to get the answer for this one. All right, last question for this part of the exam. Explain how you would graph this function by hand without the use of a graphing calculator such as Desmos. Please be very detailed in the explanation as if you were explaining this to someone learning it for the very first time. Y equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. How would you graph that by hand? All right, part 2 will be tomorrow. It's going to be on polynomials. Basically, you need to be able to add polynomials, subtract them, multiply polynomials, and of course, factor polynomials. The bulk of the test will probably be on factoring. Okay, so you need to know all the methods we learned for factoring. You may want to refer to your notes, Module 4, Topic 1. The bulk of those lessons were done on week 5 and 6, which were lesson days 17 through 24. See you tomorrow.